Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, February 7th, 2023 meeting of the Woodbridge Traffic Authority. It is now about 6:15. First item on our agenda of the Woodbridge Traffic Authority, the public comments. Janice, is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard?
There's not.
Is there any correspondence received?
None, but one, but we're going to cover it under traffic matters.
Okay. Chief, there are 3 items under traffic.
Yes. The first one is a request from the Town Planning and Zoning Commission. You received a letter in your packets. It's pertaining to the traffic in the Manila Avenue, Miles Avenue, Merritt Avenue areas of town, and the proposed further development in that neighborhood. So to summarize their correspondence, at their December 5th meeting, TP&Z approved a subdivision application for 9 Manila Avenue for the creation of 2 additional lots for a total of 3 lots where there previously had only been 1. And the TPC Commission currently has an application pending before them now for the creation of a new road off of Merritt Avenue, which if approved will have a total of 14 duplexes on it. That parcel of land is located on the south side of Merritt Avenue. Going down Merritt, it's on the right, it's bordered by Route 15 and the vacant brush and wooded area behind the Phillips 66 gas station at the New Haven town line. The residents in the neighborhood there voiced their concerns to the TPZ regarding speeding, parking, and the possible hindrance of the ability of the residents, snow plows, emergency vehicles, and school buses to drive down those streets. And again, last night there was a public hearing, I believe, and at that hearing as well, they expressed their frustration about often being blocked by the Route 69 traffic congestion and backup when entering or exiting Merritt Avenue. So TPZ had asked back in December when we got this letter if any traffic calming devices or possible parking restrictions would be beneficial in addressing the concerns of the residents in that area that are being expressed. And because of that, I took the liberty to direct that a traffic study for that area be initiated, and that was just recently completed, and we'll be reviewing the finding of that report in-house amongst ourselves, and then hopefully at next month's meeting we'll have some possible recommendations to share with the board and discuss with you first, and then we could discuss a formal response to the LTA and TPZ. I mean, from the LTA to the TPZ and to the neighborhood of how everybody thinks it might be best to proceed.
Okay.
The second topic had to do with some towing service issues that arose over the last few weeks. We had 2 issues that came up. So I guess for the benefit of all, but especially for our newest commissioners, I'll review our towing procedures. So we have 6 towing service vendors who we utilize as needed, and they're on a rotational basis. And some of them we've had a long-standing professional relationship for many years. In fact, some of them have been here for decades. So the towing companies that we use, the companies that we use that provide towing services for us are Amity Motors, York Auto Clinic, McGill's, Bruno's Garage, DeGennaro's Auto, and Orange Auto. Those are the 6. So the first issue I want to make the board aware of is that, so for years, Bruno's Garage was our only tow service with the capability and equipment to provide services for both regular duty towing and heavy duty calls for service. That's for larger trucks over a certain weight and tractor trailers, things of that nature. Amity Motors has always been available for regular duty tow calls up until the beginning of this year, when they advised us that they had acquired a new truck and that they too were now available and equipped for heavy duty calls for service. Since they advised us of that, we told them, okay, if you have the equipment, you'd be welcome to do that as well. And we put them on the toll list, added them as another service they could provide. They were already on the toll list. But recently it was determined that the heavy duty tow truck, which Amity Motors listed on their memorandum of agreement that they submitted, for 2023 calendar year. It wasn't actually registered or owned by Amity Motors, but it was owned by a company out of Orange. And that Amity Motors does not own a vehicle capable of performing heavy-duty towing. So I brought that to the attention of the owner, and we discussed it. And as you can see in my letter to Amity Motors that was in your package effective on January 23rd, I removed them from the police department towing rotation list for heavy-duty calls only. And moving forward in the future, if they purchased and registered their own truck that's capable of heavy-duty tows, then they could certainly reapply to be reinstated for that. The second matter we have is outlined in a correspondence that was also in your packets, and that was from Mr. Robert Bruno of Bruno's Garage, and that's regarding the towing rotation cycle itself. So the history on that rotation cycle is that sometime circa 2005 or so, the Board of Police Commissioners that was in place at that time granted approval to give preferential treatment to our tax base for tow companies located in Woodbridge. Back then, the only two tow companies from town were Amity Motors and Ciancola Motors. Ciancola Motors eventually went out of business, so leaving Amity Motors as the sole company located in town. So the tow rotation cycle, which was established decades ago and still remains in effect today, gives one extra towing call per rotation cycle with Amity Motors for being located in Woodbridge. So the way the cycle works is, to make it short, it's Amity Motors, Bruno's, York, DeGennaro, then Amity gets another one, and then McGill's and Orange Oil, and then it goes back up to the top of the list. So our policy, which the owners and tow companies are all well aware of, is that the tow company that's called for service must respond with their tow truck, and that truck must be properly and permanently marked as such for their company. And also, if they're unable to accept a call when requested, they can't transfer the call to another tow company. They must just forfeit their turn in the rotation cycle. What's happened is for several years now, both Amity Motors and York Auto have been sharing drivers for their towing calls. So these, and the drivers and the trucks for Amity Motors and York have been based out of Mike's Auto in Orange. And it's a procedure that's been in place for years. On the PD side, we're not really concerned who's driving the truck, just that the company that's called is a company that arrives, and they arrive in a reasonable amount of time, and the driver performs the towing service efficiently. Amity Motors currently has 3 trucks, which I confirmed are registered to their business at 220 Amity Road, and they still pay taxes to the town of Woodbridge for those trucks. York Auto has 2 tow trucks registered to their business, which is located in West Haven. So I discussed it with Scott Altschuler, who's the proprietor and owner of Amity Motors, and he's aware of the issue being brought forward to the board by Mr. Bruno, that he thinks because the trucks are being based out of Orange, Mr. Bruno feels that Amity Motors is not a towing business from Woodbridge. And for that reason, he doesn't think they should have an extra tow on the rotation. And speaking to Scott Altschuler and making him aware of what's going on, he feels that the tow cycle should remain at a minimum of the way it is, because he's the only tow service paying taxes to the town of Woodbridge. And he claimed that the vehicles being towed, even though they're being towed sometimes to Mike's Auto, for mechanical failures, are coming back to his garage, and some repair work is still being done in Woodbridge. And so the issue before the board tonight is whether we'd like to modify the rotation cycle as it pertains to Amity Motors, and is being requested by Mr. Bruno.
What are your thoughts?
The what?
What are your thoughts on
My
whether we should
thoughts
modify it?
are, as far as the rotation cycle goes, my thought is, I'll honor, like we've been honoring what the previous board said, and I'll certainly honor whatever the board decides tonight. I don't think in my capacity it would be right for me to give an opinion about giving preferential treatment to anyone. I think my main concern, our main concern, is to make sure whatever the policy is, everybody abides by it, and we hold everybody to task to go by whatever the policy that's set forth is, and our main concern is that we get efficient and responsible service when we need it. But as far as, you know, giving anybody an extra rotation, you know, I honor what the previous board said, and like I said, whatever you feel is best.
Can you just clarify something for me? So Amity Motors has a site in Woodbridge,
Correct,
and their trucks are registered in Woodbridge and paying taxes to the town of Woodbridge?
correct.
But do they have other trucks at Mike's?
No, they usually house their trucks at Mike's,
Okay.
so the driver is kind of based at Mike's, so they just they respond from Mike's. But they're Amity Motors trucks registered to Amity Motors.
Where's Mike's, Chief? Where is Mike's?
It's on Route 34 over here. It's between, say, Johnson Road and Racebrook, in that stretch of 34, in Orange.
In Orange. Are there any statistics in terms of, you know, how many each one has been used? In terms of just how the allotment has been going?
Yeah, it goes through the cycle, so we keep the records of the cycle. It cycles through that, just the way I read the list there.
And his concern is that Amity Motors has 2 slots, and he would like it to have 1.
Mike has none, because they're not on our list.
Okay.
So it's just those 6 companies that I
No,
read.
but Robert Bruno,
Right.
his concern is that Amity has 2,
Right.
and he would like them to have 1.
Yes, he'd like them just to have one, everybody just have one.
But his argument is that they're not a Woodbridge towing company. But what you're saying is that they are, because the trucks are registered in.
Yeah, so they're a garage out of Woodbridge, and they have tow trucks. And I think what Mr. Bruno wrote in his letter, that the trucks weren't registered to Woodbridge, but
Right.
3 of their trucks are registered in Woodbridge.
Do they have other, is that the total number of trucks that they have?
I'm sorry?
Is that the total number of trucks that they have?
No, they have, I believe that's all they have, yeah. They have 3 trucks, and they had one that they had marked as an Amity Motors truck, the heavy-duty one,
There was
but
not.
it wasn't. That's the thing we found, it was not.
So they're not in the heavy-duty rotation,
No.
because they cannot be.
So they're just in a regular rotation, the same that they've been for decades. But they've been getting 2 since early 2000.
Frank, how many companies are housed Derby Avenue there? I'm at on Route 34.
2 that we use, York and,
Amity and York?
yes.
Chief, are there any performance differences you've encountered between the companies, particularly Amity versus the others, or is everything pretty even?
No, they've all been pretty even, as long as they could get here on time, you know, and certainly, sometimes some of them take a couple minutes longer because they're coming from West Haven or wherever, but we need to keep, you know, this supply, enough of quantity of drivers so that when one's not available, sometimes there are other calls and you know, it just happens to be. But the cycle has always worked well. It's, like I said, it's been in place for years, but there's always been this, you know, some never liked that others were getting more than them.
And
And
is there, I'm sorry.
Is it, and it sounds like if I'm correct, is the person who received the inquiry from Amity, so I'll just follow up on this. His representation was he's the only one of the towing companies paying taxes to Amity as a business. Is that your understanding?
As far as I know, yes, he's the only one.
And
He's the only one located in town, so I'm sure he's the only one paying taxes in
Right.
town.
And he represented to me they're paying about $20,000 a year at least. If that's the case, it seems to me that for an in-town company versus an out-of-town company would be a reasonable thing. But if there's any other facts that bear on this, we certainly should address it.
Has the load been unbalanced, or is it significant one way or another, where Amity is getting the lion's share of the request for any reason, or just because of the rotation?
No, I mean, once in a while, an owner has a preference and they could ask for Amity, because it might just be because they're from Woodbridge and they
Right.
do business with Amity. But other than that, we just pretty much strictly go by the list and it cycles through, unless there's some exigent circumstances that, you know, we had to get somebody else quicker or something like that. But you know, it's just been in place forever, and as long as we call everybody to task and make them adhere to it, it's worked. I guess just the question is the 2 for Amity. That's the only
I
thing that was being
don't
contested.
really have a problem with having 2 for a business that's operating in town and paying taxes to the town. It's not, you're not saying this is the only company we're going to use, or we're going to give half to them. Unless somebody can
So was this done through an MOU? How was it approved by the board in the past?
All these companies were approved by the board.
No, I'm saying, but how was this preferential treatment approved by the board?
It was
Was
approved
it by vote or by,
by vote. We went back into some of the minutes back from 2005, I think, that far back, and that's when it started, yes.
so was someone willing to make a motion to continue the policy of giving preferential
I will.
treatment for a local Amity business?
I'm not sure I would word it as preferential.
Well, they're getting 2 times
Yes.
per cycle, so that is
I would
preferential.
move that we continue the practice of letting them have 2 individuals.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any comments or questions?
The only comment I'll make is if for some reason there was another, are they the only ones in Woodbridge that have that capability?
To tow?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So unless someone
At
else
least the only
comes
ones that
in,
express interest.
I certainly seem to feel they're a taxpayer and we should accommodate that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last topic for traffic is, so unfortunately, we had a fatal accident, as you know, on New Year's Eve at the intersection of Route 69 and Clark. And we've discussed that dangerous stretch of the road and the curved intersection in the past, as it's been the site of many numerous serious and fatal accidents for years now. If you recall, back following our April meeting last year, I filed a written request with the Connecticut DOT for a traffic study of that area and solicited them any traffic safety enhancements that they might be able to provide to improve highway safety and reduce the crashes in that vicinity. Over time, and especially most recently, we've continued with our stepped-up visibility and our deterrent traffic and radar assignments in the deployment of the speed awareness trailer in that area, but the accidents continue to occur there, so really it needs more than just police presence. It needs some kind of additional signage or some sort of physical enhancement, hopefully. So I've reached out repeatedly to the DOT, and finally I got a response from them back on January 25th, in which they advised me that their Department of Engineering did receive my request, but their engineering team that was initially assigned to the request has changed, and they apologize for their inconvenience, but they will let me know when their investigation is complete, so when we hear more from them, I'll keep the board posted, and we'll go from there. But I just wanted to follow up with you that at least we got some confirmation from the members that they're still working on their study there. And that was all I have for traffic.
Is there a motion to adjourn the traffic authority?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Welcome to the Board of Police Commissioners. It is now 6:33. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Because not every commissioner was here, unfortunately, we'll have to go through each date. It's probably the easiest way to do this.
Please.
So July 18th, everyone was present. Is there a motion to approve July 18, 2022 minutes?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the October 3rd minutes. Dr. DeSier and I have to recuse ourselves. Is there a motion to approve October 3rd, 2022 minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Out of the available members, that carries unanimously. November 1st, everyone is available to vote. Is there a motion to approve November 1st, 2022 minutes?
So, second.
All those in favor? That carries unanimously. November 21st, 2022, everyone's available to vote. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move them.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I see unanimous hands. That carries unanimously. And our last is December 12th, 2022 minutes. Everyone's available. Everyone except for Commissioner Esposito.
Yeah, I was sick.
Move.
Thank you. Is there a second? All those in favor? That carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda, the public comments. Is there anyone from the public that addressed the commission either?
No,
And there's no one here that wished to be heard.
no, thank you.
Moving on to financial report.
Okay, after completing the first 7 months of the fiscal year, we remain on track. We're at 57.9% as of the other day. And as I shared with you at our last meeting, our police overtime and dispatch overtime lines have been significantly affected since the start of the fiscal year. Several months of vacancies of an officer or dispatcher, along with several extended absences, one which was a workers' comp related issue. That line continued to be further impacted during December and January due to personnel being out on COVID related absences. We have an additional officer who went out on an unanticipated extended medical leave, and a vacancy due to an officer who retired effective at the beginning of last month. And then over the past couple of months, we had a windstorm with multiple poles and trees down and public hazards, 2 fatal motor vehicle accidents, one in December and one in January, road closure and utility work. Most recently, in the last few weeks, and I'll touch on this a little bit later in my report, but we had 8 or 9 burglary investigations that all occurred after hours, in the early morning hours. We had a weekend online social media threat of a school shooting that carried on throughout the weekend. So our police overtime line is at 91.9%, and our dispatch overtime line, as you can see, is at 135.7%. And the other lines that of concern somewhat are the data processing line, 52210, is at 94.5, but that reflects a lot of increases in all kinds of new costs associated with our ongoing department IT network upgrade and cybersecurity, things that are being upgraded, and it's something we also addressed in our budget proposal for the upcoming fiscal year. And then our repair maintenance vehicle line is one that's, just we have high mileages, we have a lot of repairs, and the prices are just over the top of all those parts. So that's what that's attributed to. And as I said, in our budget for next year, we again requested amounts that would reflect all that.
Are there any questions?
Just in terms of the dispatch overtime, we've increased the workforce. Is that trending downward, or it's?
It should.
When should that start manifesting itself? In terms
Yeah,
of
that hasn't affected it at all as of yet, but it should once she's cut loose. But she has not, so she doesn't count towards minimum staffing. And most of that overtime that was there had to do in the beginning of the fiscal year before we hired Anthony for that one vacant position. We had a vacancy, so that's what was killing us with that. And then we had one dispatcher that was out for a couple of months on an extended absence surgery on top of that, and COVID-related absences as well. But once she comes on board, we're fully staffed with the 7. It should help with staffing levels over there, because even if one was absent, it would still leave one there.
When is that gonna be, Frank?
We're hoping, I'll touch on that too a little bit later, but we're hoping maybe for the April bid, which is April 9th. She's completed all of her certifications, but she's still trying to get the on-the-job experience, and the supervisors don't feel that she's at that point to be cut loose yet. So.
And just to make sure, when you say cut loose, to be put into the rotation, or?
Yeah, that's what cut loose is, to work as a regular dispatcher without supervision. Yeah. So she'd be able to work by herself.
Is there a motion to approve the financial report?
I just had a quick question about the repair and maintenance of vehicles, which looks like it's way over. Is that because of the age of the vehicle?
It's because of the high mileages and inflated parts pricing, and our delay in getting cars, because we kind of diminished how many we were getting, the cycle a little bit. But even the ones we were getting were delayed arrival due to shipping and delivery, just I guess all COVID supply chain demand, and the prices of repairs went way up. And we have 4 or 5 significant repairs back to back that had to be covered. So, but it's, yeah, it's all pretty much due to high mileage.
Move to approve. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? No one against? Carries. Next item is the activity report.
Okay, on the activity report for the last couple of months, quick rundown. We had 10 burglaries in the past 2 months, 2 in December and 8 in January. One of those was residential and the other 9 were all commercial establishments. Between January 20th and the 31st, we had 9 nighttime or early morning hour burglaries, forcible burglaries in the business area. It was quite a spree that we had, and was also experienced throughout New Haven, Upper Westville, the Amity Shopping Center, and all the way down into the Westville Village, a little bit lower. We worked with New Haven on that. Our guys made an arrest of 1 person that was involved in one of these robberies, and when it all shook out at the end, they were able to, in a short turnaround time, get 8 arrest warrants pending in court for the suspects involved. One of the suspects got arrested by New Haven on an unrelated charge, and all these burglaries for the spree has stopped over the last week or so since that one arrest was made. And so we're anticipating, clearing all these once these arrest warrants come out. We had a drug complaint where they assisted Department of Children and Families at a local residence with an ongoing investigation, and drug paraphernalia was located, and they made an arrest down there. They had a total of 15 different fraud cases over the last 2 months. Most of them were check frauds, identity theft, people trying to open up fake accounts, Department of Labor, altered checks, things of that nature. We had 4 reports over the last 2 months of reported gunshots that the guys responded to, and one of those was on January 6th, and that ended up being an actual homicide just right over the line on Pondaway Avenue in New Haven. 3 different larceny complaints. We had 2 missing person complaints. One was on January 10th involving a 25-year-old female that went missing for several days. Involved mental health issues, but we were able to bring that to conclusion. She was located in New Haven. And also last month we had a 14-year-old Amity High School student that had been dropped off by her parents in the center of town, but never made it to school. So that was quite an intensive search for a while. We had one of the dog from Seymour to help to check the wooded area. Long and short of it was that we made contact with her later that morning, located her, and were able to provide them with the appropriate services that they needed to bring that to a successful conclusion. And we have 2 stolen motor vehicles, 1 each month. One of them was taken in a burglary on Lucy Street, and was later recovered in Ansonia and had been used in another burglary in Shelton. We brought that back, and we have some forensic evidence on that's pending. And on the 22nd of last month, we had an accident at Amity and Bond, which ended up being a stolen motor vehicle. 5 juveniles have fled from that, and responding patrol units were able to take them into custody in the Luciani Street area. And as I mentioned, we had the threatening online incident involving the threat of a possible school shooting at the high school, which we were able to bring to a successful conclusion Sunday and identify the person involved, and the school was able to kick off on that Monday morning without incident. And they served 5 different outstanding arrest warrants during the month of January. And as far as just a quick update from the ISU report, for December and January, they did 19 fingerprinting requests, 12 fingerprint 12 pistol permit applications and background checks, and they're currently conducting background investigations on 5 entry-level officer applicants who we have, and they assumed 17 new cases during the last 2 months. As described in the press release I shared with you from the U.S. Attorney's Office, ISU attended the guilty plea hearing on December 14th for a subject that was arrested for armed carjacking that occurred at a Warren Road residence, who was responsible for numerous other robberies throughout the area. And his formal sentencing for that will be in March. Sexual assault investigation that I reported to the board in December was concluded, and an arrest warrant was submitted to court. It is under review. They're working with the fire marshal on an arson investigation involving a stolen motor vehicle that was found set afire at the Country Club of Woodbridge property on Whitfield Road last month. And as I said, they've been most busy the last 2 weeks with this rash of commercial burglaries that I talked about, and the warrants will be forthcoming on those. And that's all I have on the criminal side, and Deputy Chief Smith will fill you in on the traffic activity for the past 2 months.
Question, Chief, on the criminal list, what's the D-run category? That's where I had a number.
Which one was that, I'm sorry?
The line for D-run category, 1312 this month.
D-runs.
D-runs? So those, our D-runs are deterrent patrols. So they're certain areas where they're assigned that they have to concentrate their patrols on. And especially on midnights, they have certain areas that they'll check the buildings and different town buildings, so on and so forth.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, with regards to motor vehicle activity, in the month of December, Woodbridge police officers made 67 motor vehicle stops. In January 2023, 87 motor vehicle stops. Looking over the last 3 years regarding motor vehicle stops, in 2020, we made 409 stops throughout the year. 2021, we upped it to 905, which was a 121.27% increase. 2022, we stopped 1,462 cars, which was a 61.55% from 2021. With regards to speed enforcement, in December, we conducted radar assignments on 348 occasions. January, 382 occasions. Motor vehicle accidents in December of 2022, we had 38. In January, we had 20. 2020, we had 223 accidents. 2021, we had 268 accidents, which was a 20.18% increase. And in 2022, we had 326 accidents, which was a 21.64% increase from 2021. Our speed trailer has been moved to several different locations throughout the month of December and January. Mainly it was housed on Center Road on 2 different occasions, on Amity Road and on Litchfield Turnpike.
So the comparison from 2020, was there a huge drop-off in traffic because of the pandemic, resulting in a decreased activity?
I think, the increase is really based on a lot of aggressive driving, what we've seen in the last year or two. There's been a lot of aggressive driving, occurring throughout town. We've seen that in a fatal accident or 2 that we've had recently, and in the amount of motor vehicle stops that we're making. So, especially on our major thoroughfares.
I wonder if some comparisons to 2019 might also be useful, because there was a big change in 2020 in activity of the population.
Yeah.
Also, are there any comparisons done with other departments or area departments or anything like that?
No, I haven't compared it with other departments, no.
That's all for activity.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the activity report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Carries unanimously, thank you. Moving on to the report of the chief.
Okay, regarding the dispatch center, we're continuing to move ahead with this project. In December, we received the architect's proposed tentative design plans for the renovation of the dispatch center. Last month, myself and Brad from Facilities met with the architect from Silver Petroselli and Associates, and we reviewed the plans and made some modifications. Yesterday, we received his most updated design plans and estimate as to the associated construction costs. And later this week, we have a meeting on Friday with the project manager from Norcom, Connecticut, to review the logistics associated with temporarily relocating all the equipment up in front in the dispatch center to this room here during the construction phase, and then moving it all back up front when the project's completed. So I anticipate that once we get some pricing about the move and work with Tony a little bit further, the finance director a little bit further on that, we'll have some additional information to share with you as the status of the project and if they're going to put it out to bid and where we're going to go from there with that. And the next topic we have is the AMR integration. So we've just integrated our dispatch area with AMR on January 25th. We went live with an integration, and it's between AMR and the CAD system located up in our dispatch area. So now, in addition to having direct telephone communications with AMR, with our dispatch center, so if somebody calls in for a medical or whatever, we transfer the calls over the phone. With this new integration, that provides us with immediate interoperability with them through the CAD system for any calls in which the medic or the ambulance is dispatched to. So with this new system, we can quickly see all their AMR dispatch information, the related notes and information that they're taking from the caller at the time when we release the call to them. And the same for them, they could do the same with our information as well. So they'll be able to see information that we're entering into our computer pertaining to that case as well, except for anything that's confidential, such as collect information that they're not privileged to view, and all that's filtered out by the next-gen system. So it's a really mutual benefit to all of us with the integration, because it's critical. It's really critical and pertinent information, but now it's being updated constantly, and it's all being shared with real time, and it's not taking any time away from the dispatchers having to speak to somebody on the phone while they're multitasking and doing other things.
Chief, I have a question for you. With the exception of collect, is there other law enforcement material that's included that they can see on the AMR side?
No, they shouldn't be able to see anything that they're not privileged to, like NCIC information and things like that. It's all filtered out.
What about information about someone who calls in on a particular case? Like the data
Each person
about...
that calls in, no, they just see it's just the stuff in the notes section. That's what they don't get, like all the pedigree information and
Okay.
phone numbers and things like that, just the notes that are exchanged. And for us, it gets all the ambulance times, and so we can actually look and see that the ambulance arrived, and then it arrived at the hospital, and what's transpired in between as well. And the last topic I had was just an update on our Axon body-worn camera and dashboard camera project. We're continuing to move forward with the body cameras. In the middle of January, all of our personnel have now been issued and trained in the use and the operation of the new Axon body-worn cameras, and so they're all currently being deployed with our staff as they go out on a daily basis. So we're strictly on the Axon body-worn cameras, and the new Axon dashboard cameras are on order. And I think they just had a call the other day, and they're on track to be shipped in the next few weeks, and they're going to be installed sometime in early April or hopefully at the end of March in that area there. So then, once that's done, we'll be all completed with that project, and it'll all fully be in the works. And that's all I have to report.
Is there a motion to approve the report of the chief?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? That also carries unanimously. Next item are the extended absences for
Yep, so
personnel.
Just some updates since we last met. We have had one dispatcher who was out on extended medical leave since September, and she returned on December 24th. That was something I referenced in regards to the overtime. During the month of December, we also had 4 employees out of work, each for several days associated with COVID. All of them have since returned to work. Currently, we have one officer who unfortunately and unexpectedly had to go out on an extended medical absence effective December 28th. And as of now, he's anticipated to be out of work for approximately 3 months. And just last week, we were notified that we have another officer who's tentatively scheduled to be out of work at the beginning of the end of March for approximately, could be up to 2 months, and associated with a workers' comp injury-related procedure. So needless to say, these absences, coupled with a vacancy due to a recent retirement, are going to keep posing us with staffing challenges and continuing to impact our overtime line. But we're doing the best we could to get the job done with the resources we have. So just wanted to let you know about that. And regarding our new hires, the 2 hires we had, Officer Meehan has completed his first 6 months with us, and he continues performing very well without incident. And our newest dispatcher Newton Lewis, has achieved all of her mandatory certifications without incident, so she is all set with that. And currently we've transitioned her from several weeks on the evening shift to the day shift, where she'll experience an increase in call volume as she continues with the facet of her multitasking and on-the-job training. So we're hopefully moving forward, eventually she'll be able to be part of minimum manpower as well. And an update on our hiring process. So, as I know you're aware, I'm sure you're aware, police agencies across the country are struggling to recruit, hire, and retain personnel. The trend's something we too are dealing with, and it was clearly evident during the last round of the South Central Criminal Justice Regional Testing process that was completed last month. The testing process was held seeking potential candidates for entry-level positions in any of 5 area police departments, and we were one of those 5. Unfortunately, there were less than 25 applicants who participated in the testing, and that number was even reduced further just by their test scores. So as a result, the hiring process is very competitive now due to the limited number of candidates and the number of agencies that are trying to fill positions. So as of the closing date, which was February 3rd, we've received only 5 applicants, and we've started the background process on them, and I'll keep you advised how the process goes and how that all shakes out. But we're hoping to find a suitable candidate and a good candidate, and we'll move forward with that in subcommittee and keep the whole full board aware of where we're proceeding with that. And the last thing I had was just to want to make the board aware that after receiving a complaint from a resident regarding the performance of 2 officers on a call for service complaint that they recently responded to, I ordered the initiation of an internal affairs investigation into that, and that's currently ongoing and is being conducted by the deputy chief now.
Frank,
That's all for person.
the 2 officers that are going on medical leave, are they going to be off together? Are they out together?
They could be,
They overlapping?
And the best scenario would be with the officer that's out for the 3 months, the initial one that went out on December 28th.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll be coming back at the beginning of the other person going out, but they might overlap, or
Because
Might
that
be
gives you down,
preferred.
they overlap, you're down 2 guys.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna, yeah, it's gonna be,
Chief, you mentioned the drop-off in applicants, which we've heard about nationwide. Before that came to be, roughly what was the range of numbers of applicants you usually get for an officer position?
Right, a few more. In fact, the director of South Central Criminal Justice who does the testing, he shared actually the numbers that he had, and it was remarkable that we had a South Central Chiefs meeting today, and he was saying that the number of applicants that he got, usually he would get a few hundred for just one test, and now he does it 4 times a year, and he doesn't even get that same amount. In 2022, they had 209 applicants, that was it. In 2013, they used to get 848 applicants at the same time. And the first round of 2023, 30 people signed up, 24 people showed up, and 22 passed. So it's just, it's very challenging. So, and all the chiefs are dealing with the same thing. They're all trying to fill, and even the people that pass as the process moves forward, a lot of them aren't, making it through the whole way. So, yeah.
The last officer we hired was the state police, had retired from the state police, right?
Yes.
And he's on, he was the last one.
Yes. Yeah, he's doing very well. And that was all for personnel matters. The last topic that we had was the budget. So regarding our fiscal year 24 operating budget, on January 3rd we met and reviewed the proposed fiscal year 24 operating budget with the budget subcommittee, which was Commissioners Esposito and Cardozo. Then on the evening of January 24th, that budget was presented before a joint meeting of the Boards of Selectmen and Finance. Thank you to Commissioners Cardozo and Capel for your presence and support at that meeting. And just so you know, the next steps of the budget process is that the Board of Selectmen will review all the budgets that were proposed to them, and they'll make their recommendations to the Board of Finance later this month. Then the Board of Finance review and final budget recommendations will be made in March. And tentatively now, the town's budget hearing is set to be held on April 24th, followed by the annual town meeting, which is scheduled for May 15th. That's it.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn? It's now 7:03.
So move.
There's a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Carries unanimously. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Good night.